Hey Gearheads, today we're going to be reviewing my newly acquired Mercedes-Benz C350. This particular example is in pristine condition, only has 104,000 kilometers or slightly more than 65,000 miles. It's really clean and it's been really well taken care of. Let me start this off saying that I'm not a Mercedes fanboy. I've owned many Toyotas and I would say I'm probably a Toyota fanboy if anything. I've owned it for about 2 weeks now and have put close to 800 kilometers on it, so I will be as open and transparent as I can. So first impression of driving this car, it's a pretty luxurious feeling experience, especially compared to RAV4. I drove a 2009 RAV4 for the past 7 years or so, and this is a whole other level. Even with the low profile tires and the fairly low ride height, the bumps do not make their way to the interior. You don't feel them hardly at all, which I think is fairly impressive. As far as comfort goes, I think this thing's really comfortable. The leather seats are really nice. I'm 6'2", and I got plenty of leg room. I could even back the seat up further if I wanted to. The steering is tilt and telescopic. I personally like it all the way as close to myself as possible. One thing to note is that the blinkers are not where you would expect them to be. They're not up here. This is actually the cruise control. The blinkers can be found down here. And cruise control is actually really nice up here. You just pull it towards you to engage it. Lift it up just a little bit, it goes up by 1. Big lift is up by 10. Down by 10. It actually works really well. Cancel it by pushing it. Resume by pulling it back. The climate control buttons actually feel quite nice. There's a satisfying click when you turn this dial. You can also sync it up so that the driver and the passenger heat is different, or you can have them individual to your own preferences. You can also have it in auto mode. You just set the temperature and the car figures it out. I honestly think it feels really nice to use, and it's pretty user friendly. I like buttons. I like good old-fashioned buttons compared to touchscreen settings. One thing to note for the Canadians driving in the winter is this car does not have a handbrake. The emergency brake is actually a foot brake. You operate by pressing here and release by pulling here. This little button down here controls the screen up here. It's a little dated, as you can see. It's not quite as user-friendly as the touchscreens are nowadays, but it'll do the trick. Another thing to note is if you turn off the radio, you lose your reverse camera. It doesn't come on anymore. If I put it in reverse, camera's still not on. I think that's a little silly too. You should not lose your reverse camera just because you don't want to listen to the radio. This car comes with a 7-speed automatic transmission with a Eco and a Sport mode. The only thing I noticed that does is it sharpens up the throttle response. If it's in Sport, it'll feel normal. If it's in Eco, it'll feel really sluggish. You can also manually shift the gears going left to right. Now all of us at Gearhead are big manual transmission enthusiasts, but this automatic transmission is actually quite decent. It shifts relatively quick and is absolutely buttery smooth. Each gear shift is done in absolute perfection, so smooth you can't even feel them. As far as fuel efficiency is concerned, about average. For the last 1,000 kilometers, I've done 10.0 liters per 100k, averaging 58 kilometers per hour, so half highway, half city driving. So it's decent. It's not bad. It's not great. One interesting quirk about this car is, in fact, the wipers. The driver's side wiper follows a traditional path that you would expect, but the passenger side has some kind of deviation, as you can probably see. to try and get more of the windshield. I think that's pretty interesting. Another thing I wanted to mention about the wipers is that they're actually rain sensing. So you just leave them in the auto position and they kind of just turn on when they need to, they turn off when they need to, and it's actually worked surprisingly well. So it's a rainy day. We're on this little back road right now. It's not the smoothest road, but in this car you can tell. The ride is really smooth, it's really nice. It doesn't really make you want to go fast. I feel like it just makes you want to chill, take your time. We're going to get there in all comfort. It's all-wheel drive for when the conditions are slick. Honestly, right now you don't need it. It's in the winter in Canada, it's going to be really nice. It's really well planted, and I suspect if you were to tour the Autobahn with it and go at really fast speeds, you'd be so smooth you couldn't even tell. As far as steering feel is concerned, the steering feel's alright. It's not the best, it's not the worst. It's pretty direct and it responds quickly to your inputs. So if you jerk the wheel a little bit, it responds really fast. There's quite a bit of body roll, as you can probably tell. But that's probably because that suspension is so soft, which means it's not a sports car. It's definitely more of a luxury car than a sports car. My biggest issue with the steering is that at low speeds, it doesn't really return to center as well as you think it would. You turn it and it just kind of stays like that. Most other cars that I've driven, they would return to center a lot faster. As far as pedal feel is concerned, the pedals feel really nice. They've got these little bits of rubber on the front, which are actually quite grippy and feel quite nice. Especially in economy mode, the accelerator pedal has to be pressed really far before anything happens. But the brakes are really touchy and responsive and work really well. Let's see how we handle the roundabout here. Wow, that was impressive. I'm actually really impressed with the level of grip we had from the car there. Test out the passing power. Does the job just fine. As far as 0 to 60 is concerned, this car had a time of 6.1 seconds back when it was new. Now, 13 years later, let's see what it's got. As you can see, it pulls really well. With 268 horsepower, it's got all the power that you can need in your day-to-day life. So as far as a car for a daily driver, I think this one's fantastic. It's really comfortable. The bumps are pretty smooth. It's relatively quick. It performs relatively well. Steering, handling is good. It's four-wheel drive, or all-wheel drive, I should say. Yeah, so honestly, I think it's a really, really good daily driver. As far as value for money goes, I think this is hard to beat. These cars depreciated a lot from when they were new. If you can find one with low miles and in good shape, it's a really, really good value for money. I think the only thing we should consider is reliability. I'm really not sure how well it's going to last. I think this is the thing I'm the most scared of. So far it's been good, but I haven't had it for a very long while. There's all sorts of features that you think are maybe unnecessary and might just add complexity and expense when they break. Say this radio, for example. I don't really think that's necessary for it to pop out like that. It's a little excessive. Even little things like the headrests are electronically adjustable. The folding mirrors, like it just adds a lot of parts that can break. So I'm planning to keep it for a few years, and I'm hoping that I'm really hoping that it stays good. Doesn't have too many issues, doesn't cost too much money. So my overall opinion about the car is it's a really good daily driver, especially for the price. It's a really nice car. I think anybody would love it for a daily driver. It's definitely not a race car or a sports car, but to drive every day, especially with the all-wheel drive in the winter, I think it'll be perfect as long as it stays reliable. And to me, that's the biggest concern, but we're gonna find out soon in the years to come. So that brings us to the end of the review. Hope you liked it. If you did, please like and subscribe. If not, feel free to leave a nasty comment. Let us know how we could improve. Worst case, it helps the algorithm. So yeah, thanks for watching.
See ya.